Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this video is about Joe Biden. I did a previous video about taking responsibility and the difference between like Ted Cruz and Joe Biden, where Ted Cruz goes on holiday vacation whilst Texas is suffering from a power outage, a crisis. And not that anything he created, but he should have been there with them. And then a lot of people that supported Ted Cruz said, oh, well, what is he going to do? He's a politician. He's not flipping switches for the power grid. Think about what you guys are saying before you defend a politician like you defended Trump for 4 years blindly. What a politician does in crisis, he goes and politic to the federal government for funding that could come in. They could do fundraisers to raise money. They could do a lot of things because they're leaders of their community, and other communities communicate with the leader in your community. He could communicate with all the politicians. There's one suggestion where Texas could have gotten power from the neighboring states. They could have sat down and agreed on how to do that, how to reappropriate the power to help people that didn't have power and clean water, or bring clean water and stuff like that. There's a lot of things a politician could do, right? If he's not in charge of the energy sector or flipping light switches. A lot of things that Ted Cruz could have done whilst he was on a plane flying to Cancun. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, by contrast, sharp contrast, and I was kind of mad at her. Being a New Yorker, she's from the Bronx, which is about maybe 10 miles from where I live, going down. She's over there raising money for these Texas people that they voted red. In a red state, our leading Democratic politician in New York is in a red state, smack dab in the red state. I saw her interviewing, raising millions of dollars for people that needed money, that didn't vote for her or vote for anything Democratic, right? That is politics that I want going forward. That's the politicians I want my kids to grow up under. Right? I don't want them to grow up on a Ted Cruz who goes on holiday. And then, not only that, he comes back and lies about it. For a couple of days, I don't even think he admitted, he blamed his kids, he blamed his wife, he blamed the weather, he blamed everything else but himself, right? And that's kind of why I would not vote Republican. And I don't see why anyone would, because they're not a party of anything. And then weeks later, he's on the CPAC, whatever that nonsense they do, where Donald Trump was speaking his first public speech since outside the White House. And he's a CPAC, like a Baptist preacher on stage, saying, we're for the working people. The Democrats are not for the working people. We're for the workers, the people that work overtime and make minimum wage and this and that. And the same week, not even a week ago, and now they're voting against the bill that Biden's trying to push forward to help working class people. Right? When Trump came into office, one of the first things Trump did, and you could make a textbook like contrast of the two presidents. First thing Trump did when he came into office, he came with 2 or 3 agendas, right? One of them was to get rid of Obamacare, which is the only thing he didn't accomplish for Republicans. He couldn't do it because it was taking health care away from working class people who mostly voted for Trump, or a Republican candidate for the first time since, I think, the 80s, they said. He couldn't do that. Fine. The second thing that he did right away, and it wasn't, I don't know if it was executive order done or if it's done through, because at the time, Republicans had what Biden has now. They had the House and the Senate. He got the $1 trillion tax cut, right, for rich people, right? Where if you made over a certain amount, you got a significant tax cut. Corporate tax cuts, he did all the tax cuts for the people that live above our heads, the 1%. He did tax cuts for them immediately. Republicans pushed that shit through. It went through quick. I think by now, in Trump's presidency, rich people were already just spending the money on the beach in Cabo or wherever rich people go vacation. They're like, yeah, Trump did it for us. And then after he did a bunch of things, he just sat down for 2 or 3 years until COVID came around, and he still didn't really do anything. But at that time he didn't know what to do. Biden, by contrast, one of the things Biden came into, he didn't come into a cushy state of things like Trump did. Trump came in, everything was doing pretty good for the economy. I know a lot of Obama's policy had rich people paying, I think, a bit more taxes. The corporate tax rate was a bit more, and that was all to pay off the 2008 recession, the 2007, 6, 2005, all that stuff Bush did. We were kind of paying back for that through the taxes that we were paying on the Obama and on the stuff like that. So Trump got rid of that, and now Biden comes in and is the opposite. The world is a mess. The economy is in turmoil. And Biden, he just wants to push this thing through that Trump was even supported towards the end of his presidency. And the Republicans vote against it, right? And that's the person like a Ted Cruz and these Republicans. They want to tell you, I'm for the working class, I'm for giving, open up businesses, open up schools, open this up, open that up. Get rid of the lockdowns, take off the masks, you know. What's your plan for vaccination? Crickets. How are we going to pay for this? Crickets, right? But they talk a nice game, and I don't know, I guess people are gullible. At this point, I'm old enough to know, I've been working with grown-ups, and one of the biggest shock working as a grown-up with all the grown-ups is that how gullible people are. And I'm surprised. My only shame in life is that I'm not a billionaire because people are so gullible and stupid. And that's not no fault of their own. I mean, you grow up, everyone's fairly more or less myopic. You put your head down, you do what you need to do, you go home at the end of the day, you take care, feed your family, that's it, right? That's how most people are content with living, and that's fine, right? No, we all don't have to be Albert Einsteins or Martin Luther Kings. Most people are content with what they are, and religion teaches you to be that way, if anything. But yeah, I should have been a millionaire if I'd found that out sooner, how gullible adults are. I always assumed growing up, because I grew up in Brooklyn, I grew up in New York, I traveled, a bit of my childhood was traveling, and I lived in places where people had to be smart. If you were stupid, myopic, short-sighted, didn't plan for the future, you died. You died. And I tell my kids that today. Like, life is better in some regards in 2021 than it was in 1990 or 1995 when I was a kid, right? Back then, if you didn't have smarts, if you didn't have wits about you, you died. Right? Or you were lucky. So Biden, by contrast, just wants to give money to $1,400. It's not that much. I've seen rich people spend that much on a bottle of wine, right? Of a bottle of champagne at a restaurant. I've seen wealthy people spend that like it's nothing. But to give someone to help them through a rough time. And COVID is not our fault. It's not China's fault. It's just we're humans and viruses happen. Asteroids fall out of the sky. Volcanoes erupt. It's a natural disaster. Viruses are natural disasters that humans and most biological organisms suffer from, right? And to help in that regards, Republicans are like, nope, we're not going to vote for that. It's too much money. Who's going to pay for this? It's all the questions come up now when Trump was trying to pass when Trump did the tax cuts for the rich. Not a crickets. There's no questions about who's going to pay for this, who's going to do this, who's going to do that. And now all of a sudden there's 1,000 questions about financial, fiscal responsibility. So think about it. And this is a guy that, I don't know if he follows my, I don't care, but this Republican guy, not Republican, I don't know what he is. Black guy, he looks like Spike Lee. And he's all about Donald Trump. I don't understand. And that's the thing, I don't understand black people that's for Donald Trump. It's an enigma to me. It's like a Rubik's Cube of personality disorder or something like that. I don't understand it. And, him and the Fox News crowd, they're going to put Joe Biden down. They're going to talk about his dog in the White House. That's the lead story. Joe Biden's dog is attacking people in the White House. That's the lead story for them. And Joe Biden's hugging women 30 years ago. And you could cancel Pepe Le Pew, but you can't cancel Joe Biden. That's what's important to them, right? They want to put his name in the mud. But I think Joe Biden, he came in, he said, I'm going to do A, B, C, and he's doing that. Trump did the same thing. You can say Trump did the same thing. Trump said, I'm going to do A, B, C, D, and Trump did A, B, C, D, except for the Obamacare thing. And Biden's just doing that. That's what presidents do, right? And I think the Republican Party, I understand the reason is why they want to not push this through is because Biden's going to get a victory from it. Americans going to be happier, better off, right? not dying by the thousands every day because of this money that's going to go back into opening stuff up. And that's what the money is. Republicans have been complaining for the first month of Biden's presidency that we're still under lockdown. Republicans have been complaining under Democratic in Democratic locations that the Democratic politicians on the state and local levels are not opening up businesses and schools, and we're suffering. That's what this money does. That's what the vaccination plan that Biden, he didn't even inherit it. He had to create a vaccination plan in like a month, right? And he's vaccinating millions of people a day, which is good. We could open stuff up. The thing that Biden is trying to do that Republicans have been complaining about, they're blocking from doing. And that's the enigma with the Republican Party. I don't understand. And if you are a Republican voter, please comment. Like, why do you guys still vote for these idiots, right? I don't want to put anyone down by calling them idiots, but they are. If you think about it, it's idiotic to say a month ago, like, why are we opening up schools and why are we still wearing masks? Why are we doing this? Why? And then Biden comes along, well, like, here's some money. We spend this. Everything that you guys wouldn't been asking for happens. Oh, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. Explain that to me. So that's the difference. If you look at it, if you look at Ted Cruz or Joe Biden, that's the difference between leadership. When I was in college, I did this. Harvard Business School had this leadership journal I used to read all the time. I think it was Management and Leadership. It was the name of the journal. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a Harvard University Press publication, and I read that like every month it came out. I was in my own campus library. I was reading that journal only because I knew at that time when I was in college, I was studying literature and writing. I knew at some point I would have to work with adults and maybe manage other adults. And I realized for me growing up, managing grown-ups, and I worked with kids too, managing grown-ups is really difficult, right? And you have to sort of, you have to flirt with them in a way that there's a great example of this with the Peaky Blinders show where someone says, the character, I've never seen the show, but the character, he talks to someone he wants to do business with. And the first thing he knows going into the conversation is what this person wants. And then he sits down with them and he tries to align what he wants with what they want. And he makes them think that what they want is what he wants. And he gets what he wants. And they might get what they want some of the time, but this protagonist of this Peaky Blinders show, don't know his name, I don't know the character, but he always gets kind of what he wants based on this negotiation tactics. So when you sit down to the table, right, and I don't know, and looking back, I think that's what Democrats should really be doing with Republicans. Republicans, the politicians are so gullible. Like, they're pro-Trump, anti-Trump, pro-Trump. They're so switchy. Sorry, I'm getting calls coming in. They're so switchy. Like, I think they're very gullible that Biden could sit down with a group of them and say, all right, what do you guys want? And not even together, like individually, like separate them like the police does in an interrogation room. Sit down with one or two of them at a time. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. And they all probably have different needs and things they want. And I think that's how you probably break that Republican blockade down, right? It's a divide and conquer because they have no foundation right now. The only foundation is the Donald Trump presidency. And tax cuts for rich that rich people already got. That's the thing too. The Republican Party, the reason they lost their way is Trump gave them everything they wanted, but it wasn't what the voters wanted in a way, right? Rich people got tax cuts. They wanted to get rid of Obamacare. They couldn't because a lot of voters wanted Obamacare, right? They want to get rid of this economic recovery plan, but they can't because most voters want it, right? They're going to let Biden go through it, but they don't want him to go through it only because a Biden victory means the midterm elections might look bad for them, where all the voters that want this say, oh, Biden gave it to us. And that's the funny thing. I mean, the end of this, Biden's not even putting his name on the stimulus plan, economic stimulus plan. It's just, that's what it's called. But I remember when the vaccines came out right after the election, the first thing Trump said was, oh, we're going to call it the Trump vaccine. And then someone said, wait a minute, you know, vaccines are named after the bacteria or the germs they're trying to kill. Vaccines are named after the things they're trying to kill, not the things that's killing them. You know what I'm saying? So to call it the Trump vaccine means it's a vaccine against Trump. The word vaccine, that's what it means. It means against something. So a Trump vaccine means against Trump. That's how stupid and myopic and self-centered this President Trump was, right? Call it the Trump vaccine. And then someone had explained to him what a vaccine was. Right? You know, we should have actually called it a Trump vaccine. That would have been hilarious to see that in the history books 100 years from now. A year, 500,000 people died, and then they came with something called the Trump vaccine as Trump was booted out of the presidential office. It would be funny, like, to read that in, like, one paragraph, and then you could read it different ways, like the Trump vaccine got rid of Donald Trump, and also, like, fixed the economy and fixed everything. So, funny. But anyway, that's it, guys. I have to get back to some meetings. I'll see you guys later on.